That slips on much easier, I have to say, than the 360. What is up? Welcome to Cutting Up. I am your host Mac, and I want to thank you for checking out this content. And this is the Philips Norcelo OneBlade Intimate. And as it says right here on the box, it is designed for pubic grooming. And like anything that you're putting in this area, the question on our minds is, does it suck? Let's find out. You can see that they cut straight to the chase. This is for the pubic area. It is really a full body trimmer, so don't be scared to carry it into the underarms, chest, back, or wherever. But it's saying that it is sensitive enough for pubic grooming. You can see what comes inside the box is going to be the body comb, which is some kind of guard system. It is 100% waterproof. That means this is a wet or dry shaver. A triple protection system. We will understand what that means later on. Dual-sided blade, that means you can cut with the top and the bottom, as well as the 3mm body comb. They don't seem to have any other combs, but I'm guessing they don't think you're gonna need much variety in there because you're either gonna want to do a 0 or just leave a little bit of hair behind. It is a USB charger. It is going to have a 45-day risk-free trial, as well as a 2-year limited warranty. My previous reviews of body trimmers have been a mixed bag as far as the reactions. Nobody wants to get cut, especially below the navel, but I have been, I guess, too kind to some previous devices, and people have let me know that in the comment section. So what better to kick off my new elevated standard than the Philips Norcelo OneBlade? There has been some nitpicks with the chargers, or some silly little choices they've made with re-theming and naming 360 and now the 360 Pro Mid, as well as a 360 Pro. I don't know where they're going, but other than that, the devices have been solid. So we're gonna see if they can somehow keep that going. This device, unlike the previous devices though, is in white, and I guess that choice is just to make it stand out a little bit different. But what's gonna be more important than what's on the box is what's inside the box. So let's take a look at that now. Now, one of my main things that I always rate is, can you open this thing with human hands? And I will say, if you dig right in, you really can. You won't have to get a knife out. It doesn't have any of that superimposed tape on it that's going to keep it where you'll never be able to open it without getting another tool. Right away, we do have the instructions. This is what I call the 90s poster style instructions, which are not my favorite just because it's always hell to try to remember where exactly to fold this thing back up. And the paper is a little flimsy. I would suggest to quickly take some pictures of this because I don't know how long this will last. The device might be waterproof, but this is definitely not. The illustrations are, they're good enough. No illustrations that are in color. If you've had any experience with the OneBlade, this one is not gonna lose you. It's not very much different. So I will save you a little bit of time on reading this thing. One of the things that I found concerning when I read through the manual is on this device, I'm not sure if they meant just the initial charge, but the charge time says 8 hours. Now, it's not necessarily a deal breaker. You can always plug this thing in, set it and forget it, but 8 hours for a 30-minute runtime has to be very inefficient, if I'm being honest, when it comes to a lithium-ion battery. 30 minutes is a reasonable amount of time, especially when they're specifying that this is for the pubic area. It's not really intended to be a whole body trimmer, but 8 hours for 30 minutes just didn't sit too right with me. Keep that in mind. We're gonna hold that as a con. Now, I do see where this blade is slightly different with some guards on the side. Here is the one comb that comes with it, which is going to be again a 3mm. Here is your USB. If I'm nitpicking, one of the things that will forever be one of my annoyances is it's great that it's a USB charger, but again, because it does not come with a power brick, you are going to need an outlet that is strictly a USB USB. Now, I know that there are some smart homes that are starting to have those built in your plugs, but if you don't have that, you're either going to have to get your hands on a power brick or find something similar to this. It's not the biggest of deals nowadays, but it is a slight annoyance. Give me the damn power brick. Now on the cord, you can see is a decent length. I would say I'm good with 2.5 feet. I used to praise Philips Norcelo for it always being a universal charger. They have recently added a new plug. I'm hoping that that is just going forward going to be universal in all their new devices, and just the older devices are going to be the ones that are going to be left behind. Now, holding the device without the blade in it, the lithium-ion battery does make it very, very lightweight. I think you could probably get pens that feel heavier than this. They did add some little accents on the side. It's not aggressive. They didn't put any rubberized handling on it, which would have been a little bit more premium, but it is enough to get a good grip on this, because the enemy of a good shave is wet hands. Now, putting the blade in, I did promise you guys that I was going to show you the difference between the blades. Just getting out the 360. This is to show you the blade. It is dual-sided just like this blade is, but the difference you can see other than the aesthetic is they do have these bump guards on the side, which I guess is where they're making reference to that added protection that's going to be on this blade. This is going to be the first time I'm turning on the device. And I must say, it is a rather quiet device. It has a kind of hum to it that has a premium sound. It is not high pitch. It doesn't sound like it's trying too hard. Some devices have this really high pitch, like it's the motors in there struggling. This has a sound to it that is very calm and very quiet. So that is definitely a plus to it. We're gonna hope that it still delivers the power in it. So it does come with a safety guard for more intimate areas that is easily removable, and bonus points to them for adding this. I will forever give companies credit for these kind of blade protections there, because when you are good to your tools will be good to you. And that's it. Pretty meat and potatoes. You've got the device, the charger, the comb, and that slips on much easier, I have to say, than the 360. I didn't feel like this one was very confusing or something that I had to read through. Now, it does suffer a little bit from the same thing the 360 has, almost like you're pulling and tugging, but it does feel a little bit more snug or a little bit more sturdy than the 360 did. The 3mm comb is an interesting decision, but I'm sure they did their homework why they chose that. Let's get cutting and see what this thing is about. Alright, so the rules are going to be this. We're going to take it onto the dad bod on the upper chest and maybe into the abdomen area. If it passes my test there, then off camera, of course, because I'm not trying to get banned, a quick rundown of how it does below the navel. Of course, if I have any tugging and pulling and any kind of snagging on the hair on the upper body, it won't even graduate down to the final test, which will be in the pubic area. So for a warning to you right now, the dad bod is coming out. And I have to say, kind of rough shape. So we're really going to be putting this thing to the test. Because it is dual blade and you can go up and down, we will shave in both directions. So let's get to it. So the first iteration is going to be the naked blade. This is going to be without the skin guard. While I do appreciate the extra level of protection, it just seems like this is going to be very easy to lose. So really try to keep track of this. Immediately get you something to keep your extra pieces in, as well as the guard. If you're not an organized person, do yourself a favor and get a small bag. Here is the 0 blade. Let's come up here. Alright, that is in one direction. Let's use the upper blade, or we can always flip it around. I I expected that it was gonna struggle a bit in this area here as we got into the really thick Wolverine hair that was right across the chest. It was fighting a little bit with this area here, but it still did a very good job considering this is not going to be a fixed blade shave. And I would say this feels like at worst 2 days. Considering that for the body, this was probably the most impressive against the skin. Absolutely no hair tugging, no pulling, no cutting, no nicking at all. I feel like this alone is safe enough without the guard, but we will put on the guard and see what the guard will provide. So real quick, with the guard, after using the added skin guard, I can see the benefit definitely if you take it into more sensitive areas below the belt, but I can say for a bigger area on the chest where there is less on the line, you can probably get away with using just the Philips Norcelo OneBlade without the skin guard and feel just as protected. Now again, this is not a perfectly smooth shave. It cannot compare to if you were using a fixed blade of any sort. But the benefit to this is I have felt absolutely no hair tugs, not even in the slightest. I felt like this has been even smoother than it has been on the scalp or on the face with the 360. It shouldn't really be that much different because at heart this is the same blade as this, but the experience so far has been very impressive. I am going to slap on the 3mm comb and just kind of see how much hair that leaves behind. I think I've seen enough. I kind of understand why they went with this. That is going to be good enough to leave some hair behind, but not going to be too low. Initially shaving in a upward motion using the top blade seemed to take off more, but that might be down to shaving in the direction or against the direction that the hair grows rather than anything else. So experiment with this if you do decide to get your hands on this. I guess if you're nitpicking, they could have given you a little bit more options, and maybe in another world where they have an intimate 360 Pro or something more similar to the ratcheting guard system that has a dial, but this is definitely sufficient. So fresh out the shower, you're going to have to just take my word for certain parts of this review. The pros that I would say with this is the device has enough gripping for you without being overly aggressive on it. Even with the higher standard, I have to say this is the best experience that I've had with the blade specifically. I can absolutely say this with 100% confidence. If you're going to get one of these devices and your main fear is getting nit cut or hair tugs, then you're going to want to go with something in the OneBlade series. Let's get into the cons, and some of the cons are either nitpicks or things that you're going to really want to have to consider. First is the USB charger is great, but not coming with a power brick is a little annoying. I was particularly irritated by the fact that in the instructions they show you plugging in the USB into a power brick that they don't give you. The other thing is the 30 minutes is something to consider. I would have preferred even a 45-minute battery power that I think they have in the 360. It's not to say that the 30-minute time frame isn't more than enough, but if you're doing a full manscape, something that you're gonna touch up the chest, the belly, maybe the back if you have some help, you're not gonna want to speed through this. You just don't want to run out of battery and have to wait to charge this thing, and you definitely do not want to be speeding through a shave. The other con, the cut that you are going to get is not going to be a razor sharp cut. What you're leaving behind, as I've seen in another review, is maybe 1 to 2 days hair growth, which looks great and is good enough for most people. But when they're looking at a body trimmer, there are people that want an absolute zero. Even the naked blade is not gonna get you a perfect 0. With that said, when we did jump into the shower and take it down into the pubic area, I was impressed with what it can do. But the specificity of it being for pubic grooming also goes into the size of the blade. The blade is not very big, and other body trimmers that are intended for you to maybe use in the armpits, on the chest, belly, back, the butt, again, no judgment, for those larger areas, you are going to find this to be a little tedious. If this is something that you're just trying to carry down into your business, this is going to be just the right size to do the detailing that you want. There might be areas that you want to leave here, areas that you don't. I will say this bluntly, I gave this a thorough test. I did a wet and dry shave in areas that I can't show on camera, and it passed with flying colors. Going in both directions against the grain and in the direction the hair grows, at no point did I feel anything that would resemble tugs or any kind of danger of cutting myself. I am impressed with what I was able to do and how it looks and the feel. You want to go with something that you have almost zero risk of cutting yourself with. You're going to have to give up on the idea of getting an absolute 0. If you want an absolute 0, you're going to have to take a little bit more risk. For me, I don't need an absolute 0. This is more than sufficient. So if you haven't already guessed, with those small nitpicks aside, I will say that the OneBlade Intimate does make the cut, is worth a purchase, and if you're interested, you can check the links below. This is something that I will be adding to the arsenal. A matter of fact, I have a feeling that I'm probably going to have to get a second one to not have to share this with the wife. I am interested in hearing your experience with the OneBlade Intimate. What is your experience with this? How do you guys think this is? Let me know in the comment section if you have any questions. And as always, until the next time we're cutting up, stay sharp, get intimate, and I'll see you in the next one.